So what if I told you that relying on personal willpower is actually the main reason you keep failing at your goals?
I mean, it definitely goes against, like, almost everything we're taught about success today.
It really does. We're constantly fed this narrative of the solitary achiever who they just push through every single obstacle with sheer force of mind.
Right, the whole self-made myth.
Exactly. But today, we're looking at a framework that completely dismantles that idea. We are diving into some materials submitted by a listener from the Victory with Ash Foundation series.
Specifically episode 6.
Yeah, episode 6, alongside their Master Knowledge Base version 1.0. And our mission for this deep dive is to impartially map out their core arguments regarding, well, the architecture of shared growth.
Which is a fascinating concept.
It really is. We want to unpack their claim that no one succeeds entirely alone. And then, you can decide for yourself if their approach actually holds up to scrutiny.
It's a very systematic deconstruction of human behavior, honestly. The authors argue that while individual drive is necessary, it's entirely insufficient on its own.
Right.
They map out this mechanical process for how growth actually happens, suggesting we need to stop looking at our internal motivation and start looking at our external surroundings.
And we're going to trace that exact path for you today. We'll explore how the text suggests moving from isolation to community and how to navigate from just, total confusion to having clear guidance.
And crucially, bridging that incredibly frustrating gap between acquiring knowledge and actually applying it.
Yes, which requires us to challenge some of our deepest, most ingrained assumptions. Okay, let's unpack this with a trap that almost everyone has fallen into.
I'm guessing you mean the motivation loop.
Yeah, exactly, the motivation loop. You know the exact feeling. You sincerely want to improve your life, so you go out and buy the best-selling books.
You watch hours of highly produced motivational videos online.
Oh, yeah. Or you might even drop serious money to attend a weekend seminar.
And you get that massive dopamine hit of inspiration, right? You sit down, you write out this wildly ambitious list of new habits and declare that the new you is launching on Monday morning.
But then, and this happens every time 3 weeks later, the momentum completely evaporates. You're right back where you started.
It's universally frustrating.
It is. So my question when reading through these sources is, this is the text suggesting that people are just inherently lazy. Do we just, I don't know, lack the character to follow through after the seminar ends?
Well, that is the default assumption most of us make, right? We frame it as a character flaw.
Totally.
But the Victory with Ash framework offers a fundamentally different diagnosis. The materials argue that growth is rarely an information problem. I mean, we have more actionable information right now than any generation in history.
Oh, without a doubt. It's everywhere.
The breakdown actually happens in implementation.
Wait, so you're saying the willpower isn't broken? It's just being drained by the room they're sitting in.
That is the core argument here. The implementation fails because after you close the book, you return every single day to the exact same environment that reinforced your old thinking in the first place.
Ah, okay.
You're trying to sustain an entirely new set of behaviors without any structural support.
So you're trying to be a radically different person while absorbing the exact same daily influences? That sounds exhausting.
It is cognitively exhausting.
Yeah.
And relying on willpower alone to fight your environment, it just drains you. The authors point out that growth in isolation might be technically possible for a rare few, but it is agonizingly slow for the average person.
Right.
To illustrate this, the source text uses a rather classic analogy about a seed.
Oh, I remember this part. It's a helpful visualization, even if it is a bit, traditional.
Yeah, the idea is that you have two genetically identical seeds. They have the exact same internal potential to become this massive fruit-bearing tree.
Right, but you plant one in rich cultivated soil with sunlight and water, and you basically just toss the other onto dry, neglected concrete.
Exactly. The seed on the concrete still possesses that limitless potential, but it either stays completely dormant or it sprouts and quickly dies.
Because of the environment.
Yes. The foundational argument they're making is that human potential operates under those exact same constraints. Your raw talent matters, but your environment dictates whether that talent ever actually materializes.
And I think it's important to clarify what the text means by environment here. We aren't just talking about, having a nice ergonomic chair in your home office.
No, not at all.
The authors outline a multi-layered human ecosystem. Your soil is composed of the people you spend the most time with, the media you consume, and crucially, the standards you accept as normal.
That last point is perhaps the most insidious, honestly. The standards you accept as normal.
Yeah, explain that a bit more.
Well, If you're surrounded by a peer group that normalizes constant complaining, cynicism, or just doing the bare minimum, that invisible baseline becomes your reality. Your peer group is quietly defining the ceiling of your future every single day.
Wow. Okay, so if I look around and realize my current soil is essentially concrete, if I've drawn a line in the sand and decided I'm not going to settle anymore, what is the next step? Do I just start stacking new habits on top of my life?
Actually, no. And this is where the framework gets very specific. Before you can add anything meaningful, the text insists that you have to subtract.
Subtract. Yeah.
They present a three-pillar system to move from confusion to guidance. It's rise, reset, and refocus. The decision not to settle is the rise phase, but the subtraction happens in the reset phase.
Let's unpack that reset phase, because this was actually my favorite concept in the entire document. Reading through this, I couldn't help but picture it like buying a brand new top-of-the-line computer.
Oh, I like this analogy.
Right, so you bring home this incredibly powerful machine, but when you go to set it up, you just plug in your old hard drive and blindly copy over all the corrupted, malware-infected files from your old laptop.
Which ensures the new machine will run just as poorly and crash just as frequently as the old one.
Exactly. You'd be sitting there furious, wondering why this expensive new hardware is glitching out. But it's not a hardware problem.
It's a software problem.
Yeah, you imported a corrupted operating system. You brought the malware with you. In human terms, you can't just install a shiny new success.exe habit on top of a brain that's still running the legacy software of self-doubt, toxic relationships, and procrastination.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism the authors are describing. You have to format the drive. The text explicitly states that you cannot build a better future while simultaneously carrying the habits that created your current problems.
So it's an active removal process.
Yes. A reset requires the deliberate, often really uncomfortable process of realigning your life. It means actively dismantling limiting beliefs and distancing yourself from destructive routines to create a clean operating environment.
Which then, I assume, clears the necessary bandwidth for the third pillar, which is refocus.
Precisely. Because modern life is literally engineered to fracture our attention.
Yeah.
Refocusing, in this framework, is the process of deliberately directing your newly freed energy toward what actually matters.
The authors use a very direct phrase for this. They say, where attention goes, results follow.
Which is so true.
Right. If your daily attention is consumed by office drama, you just generate more drama. But if it's directed at compounding your skills, you get growth.
Focus generates the momentum. What's fascinating here is that the materials anticipate a natural follow-up question from the reader.
Which is?
Once you have reset your systems and focused your attention, how do you accelerate the process? How do you shrink the timeline between having potential and actually seeing tangible progress?
And this brings us to their principles on mentorship and community. The text argues very strongly that mentorship shortens the learning curve.
It does.
But, I want to push back on this a little bit, just on behalf of the listener.
Yeah.
Aren't we always told that failure is the best teacher? I mean, Silicon Valley loves that whole fail fast, fail often mantra.
Sure they do.
So isn't there massive value in figuring things out through your own trial and error?
It's a fair critique. And there is certainly value in iterative learning when you're, say, innovating something entirely new. However, the authors draw a distinct line between necessary experimentation and repeating entirely avoidable mistakes.
Ah, okay.
The text argues that romanticizing the hard way is often just a cover for ego.
Oh, wow. Why step on a landmine just to prove you can survive it if someone else has already mapped out the minefield?
Exactly the point. A mentor provides a map. They allow you to absorb their hard-won wisdom, bypassing years of redundant frustration. It's essentially an efficiency play.
That makes a lot of sense.
Seeking guidance from experienced individuals with demonstrated integrity doesn't rob you of the work. It just ensures your work is actually pointed in the right direction.
But knowing the direction doesn't guarantee you'll walk the path. Which brings us to the friction of daily action. And the text leans heavily into community and accountability here to solve that willpower drain we talked about earlier.
The psychology behind this is honestly fascinating. Most people inherently know what they should be doing to improve their health or their finances or their relationships.
Right, the knowledge is there.
The deficit is almost always inconsistency. The text argues the community acts as the guardrails for that consistency.
Let's talk about the mechanics of that accountability. Because if I tell myself I'm going to get up and work out at 6 a.m., the snooze button is incredibly tempting.
Oh, absolutely.
But if I know you are physically waiting for me in the lobby of the gym at 6 a.m., the psychological calculus changes entirely. I'm getting out of bed.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's because you have introduced a social cost to inaction. When you share your goals with a supportive, observant community, you can no longer easily hide from your own priorities.
You're out in the open.
Yeah. Weekly accountability, as recommended in the materials, prevents procrastination because it keeps your commitments highly visible.
You know, the authors summarize this dynamic with a really striking line. They say, the right environment does not replace your effort, it multiplies the value of your effort.
That distinction is critical to maintain objective distance from the whole magic pill narrative. The authors are not claiming that joining a community does the work for you.
Right, you still have to put in the reps.
Exactly. Returning to the soil analogy, the soil doesn't magically lift the tree out of the ground.
Huh.
The seed still expends the biological energy to grow. But the healthy environment offers a massive multiplier on the return of that energy.
So, practically speaking, how does a listener apply this? We've covered the theoretical transition from knowledge to application, but here's where it gets really interesting. I want to look closely at the friction involved in the specific steps the Victory with Ash framework recommends.
Let's go through them. They have a 5-step action plan.
Right. And step one is evaluating your current environment. This requires taking a brutally honest audit of your current soil.
Which naturally leads right to step 2, identifying the positive influences. Who actually encourages your growth?
And then we hit step 3, which I think is where most people get completely stuck. The text says to reduce time with negative influences. But let's be real here. What if that negative influence is your department manager?
Or a family member you live with.
Exactly. You can't just delete them from your life like a bad app.
That is the practical friction of human relationships. The materials seem to acknowledge that you cannot control every variable. The application here is about establishing boundaries and utilizing the concept of dilution.
Dilution?
Yeah. If you cannot entirely remove a pessimistic boss or a cynical relative, you have to deliberately dilute their impact by overwhelmingly flooding the rest of your time with positive, growth-oriented voices.
Oh, I see. You change the ratio.
Yes. Which leads to step 4, finding those mentors. Actively seeking out individuals who possess both the practical experience you need and the moral integrity you respect.
And finally, step 5, becoming an active participant in a learning community. The text stresses the word active. It's not about just lurking in a forum or quietly reading newsletters. It's about actual engagement.
Right.
And what's really interesting is the specific type of curriculum the Victory with Ash knowledge base promotes within their community.
They cover a remarkably broad spectrum. They emphasize traditional personal development like discipline, time management, active listening, but they heavily integrate this with hard business fundamentals, entrepreneurship, and remarkably, training on AI and emerging technologies.
That combination really stood out to me. Why synthesize mindset training with artificial intelligence tools?
From an analytical standpoint, it makes perfect sense. Within their framework of multiplying effort, mindset training without modern capability often just results in highly motivated inefficiency.
That's a great phrase, motivated inefficiency.
Conversely, having access to powerful digital tools without the emotional intelligence and leadership skills to deploy them responsibly well, that often leads to burnout or poor decision-making.
So you need both.
The authors argue that comprehensive capability requires both the internal software of leadership and the external hardware of modern technology.
It's about equipping people to actually execute, not just feel good.
Yeah.
And the text claims that when you immerse yourself in this kind of structured, growth-focused ecosystem, the first 30 to 90 days are the most critical window.
According to the framework, that initial window is when the realignment takes root. By systematically reducing isolation and increasing accountability, individuals typically experience a noticeable drop in anxiety.
Because they have a roadmap.
Yes, their goal-setting moves from vague wishes to actionable metrics, and their self-awareness deepens.
So we've mapped out the mechanics of personal transformation, upgrading the operating system, finding the mentors, leaning on the community. But I want to zoom out for a second. Why does any of this matter beyond just, padding our own resumes or hitting our own personal goals?
That brings us to Principle 5 in their system, which represents the ultimate transformation they advocate for. The authors argue that growth multiplies exponentially when it is shared.
It's the pivot from individual success to shared impact. The idea that hoarding knowledge is essentially a dead end.
Exactly. Because teaching what you have learned forces you to synthesize and solidify your own understanding. When you transition from being a student of a community to being a contributor, you reinforce your own development while elevating someone else's.
And this principle seems to be deeply tied to the philosophy of the founder, Ash Mufareh. The text dedicates time to outlining his background, noting that his approach to business and community building is anchored in a specific set of values.
Those being faith, family, integrity, personal responsibility, and a dedication to serving others.
Right.
The materials present those values as the DNA of the community. They explicitly argue that achievement, whether that's securing a promotion, launching a business, or hitting a financial milestone, is merely a byproduct.
So what does this all mean? What is the actual goal?
The actual goal is total human transformation.
Transforming how you think, how you lead, and how you relate to the people around you.
Because within this framework, success is only considered truly meaningful when it is leveraged to contribute positively to the lives of others.
Which gives us a lot to think about regarding our own trajectories. We've covered the danger of relying purely on willpower, the necessity of resetting our mental operating systems, the efficiency of mentorship, and the power of a community that refuses to let you hide from your own potential.
The central thesis of the source material definitely holds up as a compelling counter-narrative. Skills can be acquired and discipline can be forged, but attempting to do so in isolation is unnecessarily difficult.
As we start to wrap up this analysis, we want to leave you with a few powerful reflection questions pulled directly from the Victory with Ash materials. Consider these an audit of your own ecosystem this week. Ask yourself, who currently influences my thinking the most?
Does my daily environment, the media I consume, the conversations I entertain, does it actually help or hinder my long-term goals?
What specific qualities should I be looking for in a mentor right now? And perhaps most importantly, what is one tangible change I can make this week to improve the soil I am planted in? If you want to join the Victory with Ash community, use the link available in the description. Growth becomes easier when we learn, encourage, and grow together. Thank you for patiently listening to this episode. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your commitment to becoming a better version of yourself. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving forward.
We will leave you with this foundational quote directly from the text. The future you build depends not only on your determination, but also on the environment you choose every day. And as you audit the soil you are currently planted in, consider this one final thought. If your environment dictates your potential, what if some of the people you currently rely on as your support system are actually the exact forces keeping your soil dry?